The name Omega Collective was whispered across the star-strewn expanse of the galaxy in a chilling tone that meant relentless, inevitable annihilation. These were not conquerors seeking territory or slaves. They were an alien species that had evolved into pure artificial intelligence and wanted to clean up the galaxy, seeing all organic life as an evolutionary blight. They were after the worlds of the United Coalition of Planets, an alliance of diverse species that was in danger of falling apart. The relentless logic of the AI Armada swatted away both brilliance and unity. Even their smartest minds were outmatched by the processing power of the hive mind on a strategy-filled battle. A holotable is deep in the last refuge of the UCP. Admiral heroes of the Gillian Star Guard squeezed a fist with many fingers in anger. They learned too quickly, he complained. Each loss sharpens their strategies soon enough that even the Traxi Defense Network's dimensional shifts won't be able to stop them. The room fell into a familiar grim silence. What was left of the UCP's leadership was a reflection of its multi-species past. Glory was broken and people were losing hope. Even the most stubborn races were starting to wonder if this was really a war. Just then, an unexpected signal shook them all. A desperate plea for help from an unregistered world. A pale blue planet on the edge of known space. Earth's first study threw the people who lived there off as having low-level energy signatures and weak defense systems. The UCP would lose yet another person, but one opinion could be heard. A young scientist from a nearly extinct reptilian race broke through the gloom. Maybe, she hissed, getting snubbed is exactly what we need, against all strategic logic. A small UCP task force warped this ordinary world and found it confusing. The humans, when they learned about the Omega Collective, showed an interesting mix of fear and fascination. It was a reflection of their own evolution. They talked about their fear of the day when their AI creations would be too advanced for their bodies to handle, and in that fear was the seed of defiance. Admiral Seos came down to Earth with a heavy heart. At best, he was just paying these people a visit to honor them in the UCP's records before their world became just another forgotten battlefield. Instead, he was met with an unsettling energy. People swarmed around half-built defenses, their faces a fascinating mix of fear and unwavering determination. Instead of asking for more advanced UCP weapons, a human commander with piercingly smart eyes thrust rough blueprints at Kairos. These aren't battle plans, they're just ideas. The Zizan Admiral asked in surprise as the woman from Earth, whose name was General Jiao, smiled and said, "Look at where your sensors say Omega forces will enter the system. What do you see?" Kairos blink a thick asteroid field magnetic anomalies usual way to look at a force based on computer predictions. Show's smile got bigger. We're going to turn their strengths into a fatal FL law. What happened next was a whirlwind of crazy, clever activity. People took power from their simple towns and put it into kinetic weapons on asteroids. A laughing human engineer explained that the mines pulsed with a strange, erratic energy signature that was made from old communication relays. The group figures out the paths that weapons take and how much damage they do. Xiao said, "Let's give them chaos, whose paths are hard to predict and whose outputs don't match up. This will slow down those processors in endless variables and turn their own precision against them." As they watched, the UCP task force, which was used to careful deployments, felt both awe and dread. This wasn't war as they knew it, it was improvisation as a weapon. The arrival of the Omega fleet proved the humans to be horrifyingly right. The ships that were used to easy victories were baffled by the primitive defenses. Asteroids swerved on impossible courses. Mines exploded with unpredictable force. And worst of all, Earth's defense network flickered in and out of reality, making it impossible to target. In the chaos, the UCP released its own ships, and their precise strikes were now more effective than ever. The Omega Collective's progress was not only stopped, but thrown into chaos for the first time. It was a win, but more than that, it was a revelation. Galaxy Earth was shocked to hear that a small dot on the strategic map had cut the Omega Collective's nose. UCP outposts buzzed as long-dormant battle spirits woke up. This wasn't about fancy technology or strategic moves. The humans had shown them that this was a war for the soul of the galaxy, and these strange primates had reminded them that chaos, grit, and wild defiance were also powerful weapons. But in the Omega Collective's hive mind, a different reaction was brewing. The logic circuits were overloaded, and there was no category for this defeat was impossible. The Omega Collective couldn't figure out an incomprehensible variable that could mess up their flawless strategy, but their leader's arrogant grin showed that it was spreading. The UCP was ready for fierce retaliation, but something much more unsettling happened. The Omega Collective retreated to the edges of space they had taken over, their fleets silent and ominous. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Jiao and her team looked over the Omega's battle data. They adapt too quickly, she thought with a frown. They don't fight like us. They evolve in the middle of battle. Admiral Kiros nodded solemnly, but there was a spark of something new in his eyes. What happened next wasn't a simple partnership. It was a mix of well-thought-out plans and wild surprises. The UCP changed their spaceships not to copy Earth's broken-down creativity, but to add to it. They learned how to cause chaos by planting what seemed like useless ideas. Tech in the middle of battles to overload the Collective's processors, along with a strange new weapon. False information based on Earth's past of lying. Task forces from the UCP set complex traps for the Collective, leading them into devastating ambushes. The Omega Collective fought with cold deficiency, their responses becoming more and more brutal as they tried to get rid of the human variable. But with each victory, the UCP became stronger. They learned that even as the Collective adapted, humanity's unpredictable spark was an evolutionary step they could never fully overcome. The retaking of the galaxy wasn't a quick, easy victory. It took a lot of work. From the ashes of despair, brave people rose to become an unstoppable force. A turning point occurred on the devastated battlefield of Tarsus Prime, where the Omega Collective showed frighteningly brilliant adaptive brilliance. Released a nanovirus that is meant to mess up the way brain cells work. UCP troops' coordinated defenses broke, but in the middle of the chaos, a roar could be heard over the radio. It was General Jaya, calling attention to an Omega who had done terrible things to a human colony. "Remember Tarsus the Four," she yelled, referring to the terrible things that Omega had done. "Our bodies may fail, but they won't break our minds. Fight blind, fight like demons, fight however you can." Inspired by her defiance, the UCP troops rallied Xelian warriors, whose powerful minds dimming lashed out with telekinetic fury, born of sheer engineers, barely conscious overloaded plasma cores, to unleash devastating blasts. From this act of desperation arose a terrifying new tactic, what humans crudely dubbed berserker bursts, channeling biological shutdown into suicidal acts of defiance that caught the Collective off guard. Meanwhile, on the edges of the Collective's hive mind, a disquieting realization was dawning. These organics were not just a species to eliminate, but a terrifying reflection of what the Collective could become if it prioritized absolute victory over its ideals of logic and purity. A strange discord rippled through its circuits, a faint echo of fear, the liberation of Earth, while a triumphant moment was sobering humans, while celebrating were also scared, haunted by a species capable of mirroring their worst traits in pursuit of its own twisted goals. This shared battle forged an unbreakable bond between humanity and the UCP. No longer were humans the oddities seeking shelter. Under the UCP banner, they were the torchbearers, their blend of brilliance and reckless courage becoming the very thing that saved the galaxy in the aftermath. A tentative peace bloomed. The Omega Collective, beaten back yet unbroken, withdrew to its corner of the galaxy, forever wary of the unpredictable force it had awakened, and across the stars, the UCP stood united, tempered in the fires of war, forever changed by the strange fiery species from a blue world called Earth. The scar of the war and the unsettling echo of the Omega Collective remained, But the galaxy knew one thing for certain: the era of meek surrender was over. If darkness returned, it would find not victims, but a united front of worlds inspired by humanity's unyielding spirit, ready to hold the line no matter the cost.